InDigital is on a mission to improve the 911 industry. Our goal is to create something better to go above and beyond the current standards. Our passion for creating the most advanced, well-designed solutions led to our position as an industry leader in next-gen core services. For the millions of calls processed over our emergency IP networks, to our Text for 911 solution, Texty, to our disaster recovery and backup solution, Mevo, it's easy to see we love what we do. For more information, check us out at www.indigital.net.
Rapid Deploy believes that every public safety agency, regardless of size, should have access to the data they need when it matters most. That's why, since 2016, our mission has been to reduce emergency response times and improve public safety. We are the industry's only integrated emergency response platform. Our web-based cloud platform includes analytics, mapping, dispatch, and mobile apps, purpose-built for 911 in the 21st century. Visit www.rapiddeploy.com to learn how we enable effective, efficient, data-driven emergency response.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be episode 354 of Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy, and man, we are almost at the end of this year. It feels like it's been 10 years for 2020. So many things keep going on and going on and going on. And even with everything that's gone on, you know, I would say a lot of good has still come from this year. There's been a lot of different things. You know, people end up kind of getting pushed out of their comfort zone a little bit to try and learn new things. And a lot has definitely happened, but I think it's been good. I think it's overall been good, even though there is the craziness of 2020. But it's been good, and good for a lot of people. I want to thank patrons as always for everything. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for you, and as well as the sponsors, and of course all of you who watch, listen, and support. So thank you so much. I appreciate it more than you know. My guest today is, I'm excited. I'm actually going to take my coat off really quick because it's about to go down. No, I'm excited to have her on. She is actually the 2020 Within the Trenches Continuing Education Scholarship winner. And also with 2020, COVID-19 happened, so things went off track a little bit. However, I'm holding the scholarship for her, and it's going to be awesome. When we go back to in-person stuff, she's going to be able to get in there. And my guest today is Samantha, and she's a emergency communications officer 2 with Cobb County 911 out of Georgia.
Hello, hey. Ricardo. It is awesome to be on the show. This is like full circle for me. So Woo! It's cool. It's cool.
Yes, this is excellent. And you know, we were talking earlier, and I had to give you a shout out right away. I was like, I love the shirt. Very cool. This is excellent. I love the Control Train, man.
Hey, respect. Love that. Yes.
Oh yes.
I was like, you know what? Gotta wear my favorite shirt for this occasion. I mean, it's just perfect.
I would watch it Saturday. I think it was just Saturday afternoon. Yes. And these were, of course, reruns Well,
That yes,
I don't know.
yes.
I think actually at the time
Did
that I
you?
was watching it, it was towards the end because they still
Oh,
had
so
it
you
going on.
did.
Yeah, for a while, but they would also show some of the classic episodes in there. And
Yes,
I know
yes.
my siblings and I, when we would have it on, we'd be just getting down to the
I
music
know,
and
just trying to little
love.
bobbing.
That's right. Yeah, bobbing the head, getting down.
Bobbing the head. I'm not much of a dancer, but even I will move whenever I watch the reruns. I'm like, "Yes, it's my
Oh,
music."
that's right. That's what I'm talking about. So, thank you so much for being on.
Thank
This
you.
is excellent. There's so much that we have to talk about, and so we're just going to jump right in. Let's just jump right in. I already
Okay.
mentioned
Do it.
about the scholarship. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But first off, I mean, you've been doing this, dispatching and such for about a little over 5 years now, right? So
Yes,
how did you get
exactly.
into it to begin with?
So, I started off in customer service,
Mhm.
and it's crazy because, like, even at our agency, we got so many people that come from so many different backgrounds. But for me, it was customer service, and I did the cashiering thing, and then I went to the bank, and I remember my mom telling me, she was like, You're not going to stay at the bank. Like, this isn't you. This is not you." And whatever I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to help people. That was it at the end of the day. And I had applied back in, I believe it was November 2014. I applied for Cobb 911, and I
Mhm.
took the, online written test. Didn't hear anything back. Went to the bank. Went to Regions Bank, bank teller was doing that. And then it was April 2015 that I get an email in my Gmail inbox saying, "Hey, from Cobb County HR, hey, you took the written test and you made whatever you needed to make on that. Here's the date and the time for the written exam." I'm like, okay. And at that time, I was already at the breaking point with the bank because it was like,
Mhm.
this is not working. This is not me. I can't do it. So I went to my mom. It was a lot of prayer. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I need to bring to the table public safety experience because I've never done this before. So I don't know what they're looking for. But I
Yeah.
took the written exam and then one after the other, just interviewed, the psych test, the polygraph, the medical test, and they brought me on. And it was literally from April of applying, April 2015, and then my official hire date was in July of that same year. So
Oh man.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So there was a lot that went into that as well.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, yes.
you do you look at it? Do you look back at it now? Just as we're kind of talking and reflecting here, do you ever
Mhm.
look back at your customer service experience and think, "Man, this was a form of training for what I do now"?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Look, Ricardo, I know okay, from all of your years in 911, customer service is a huge part of what we do. It is major. And the thing is, you can teach people customer service to an extent, but you can't teach people to like people or to respect people. That
Right.
comes that comes with dealing with people. And some people get into customer service and say, "Oh, it's not for me. I can't do this." And then some of us get into it and even dealing, even with 911 calls, and you're getting so many different people, from so many different walks of life. And you just you deal with them, and sometimes you get there's moments where things get a little intense, but customer service, that knowing how to deal with people and knowing how to talk to people despite what's going on, despite them getting heated, the situation that they might be in, maybe you're thinking of the safety of your officers, but through it all you're keeping your customer first. All of that goes back to my customer service background of the customer is always right, things like that. We're putting the customer first. These are our citizens, our customers. They really are. They're people. We're meeting a need. We're serving a need. So all of that definitely stems, I would think, back from my customer service background of knowing how to treat people. So building on that and realizing that even though I'm in a whole different arena now when it comes to public safety, but it's still at the heart of it is customer service.
Mhm.
I have to credit my, early background, early days of just cashiering at a public supermarket.
Yeah, okay, so I'm right there with you because growing up, I did I did the same thing. I was stock. I would stock and also do carry out. And,
Oh, okay.
and I would go, I would be, I was a bagger as well. So I'd be bagging groceries and whatnot. And
Yes.
people would say, I need you to double bag that. Okay, no problem. And go ahead and do it. But,
Yes.
I don't know, sometimes people are
Mm,
just having a bad day and I can't let it
exactly.
affect me or anything. Um,
You got it. Yes.
but yeah, learned from that as well. A lot of my experience coming into it was retail management, customer service,
Oh,
all of
nice.
that. And so yeah, I'm right there with you, but man,
You get it.
sometimes you're like,
Yes, you gotta have those moments. Deep breath, deep breath.
right,
And
yeah,
you can hear your caller is stretched and they're having a moment. They don't know you're having a moment too. But
right.
you're the person. You've got it. It's not their job to to be the bigger person. It's your job. We're the ones. We're 911. So we've got to be like, okay, hold on. We can't both be upset here.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And a lot of people also don't know what goes into, doing a job like this. And so, for example, I got a
Mm,
fresh cut just a few days ago, and I was in there, and the girl who was cutting my hair, she says, "So what do you do for a living?" I'm like, "How do I
okay.
say this? Do I say I'm a podcaster, or do I say I'm building a media company? What sounds
Mm,
like less bougie?" Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say at all. And, I said,
mm,
"Well, and so I kinda started explaining it, and I said, "Before all
okay.
of this, I was a 911 dispatcher for 13 and a half years." And
Okay.
then she started asking questions. She goes, "How do you do that? Is there a school that you go to first?" And what I had said to her was, basically common sense and, you have to be human. Like, you gotta know how to be human and
Yes.
really react
So true.
and learn about people and relate to them
So true.
is the biggest thing.
You're right. That's it. You're right. At the end of the day, me being on one end of the phone, them being on the other end, we're both humans.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
not better because I'm wearing a uniform shirt and I'm wearing I've got a badge that says 911. Same thing with all the public safety. We're all humans. That's it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So then did you have it as you're going through all of this, the hiring process,
Yes.
and then you start getting into training or even right before training, did you have a moment where you did a sit along or anything so that you could kind of see what was going on?
Yes. That and especially at my agency, but I would believe that's the case with a lot of 911 agencies, we had a
Mhm.
period, even before I was officially hired, formally hired, I observed for like 8 hours one night. And
Oh,
I have yes, and I gotta say, having me observe on night shift, that was kinda cool because night has its own atmosphere, the evening shift its own atmosphere, and the calls that you get, so it was a little wild.
yeah.
It was a lot happening, but it gave me a good feel for it and kind of worked out later because I ended up spending like about 3.5 years of my career at Cobb 911, ended up spending it on the evening shift before I ended up going to swing shift. But yeah, we before you're hired, you have those, you observe. And then after you're hired, you have months of observing. I had about 5 months where literally I worked 9 to 5, coming in and sitting with a dispatcher and observing. So I'm
Wow.
listening to the calls, I'm listening to them dispatch. And I love that we still do this. I mean, sometimes it may not be as long, but that is a big thing. You're going to observe before you actually start training or anything.
So, what were your thoughts then when you got in there and you first started observing? I mean, I can only for me when I didn't do a sit along and I don't know how much you
Oh,
know of my story, but when I first started out in Florida, I went in
hmm.
for my first night shift and I observed one 911 call and my trainer says, "Okay, it's your turn now." So that's how mine started, but,
Wow.
a week or 2 after that, I had a whole 40-hour, week of, beginners, dispatchers, call taker training and stuff that we did, but that
Wow.
first night,
That
that's how my night
first
went.
Oh my gosh. I would
It was
have been
scary.
pulling up Indeed.com on my phone like, "I'm going to have to find a new job." No, I mean, and look, I've know your story, and so I definitely heard that before. But with me, I was even off the months of observing, and just listening to the calls. I'm thinking to myself the whole time, like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And whoever I would sit with, they would say, "Hey, don't worry. You know, you're gonna get the training. They're gonna teach you." And I'm just like, I don't know if I can do this all day long. I felt like that probably up to the point where I got released. I remember telling my CTO, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. She's like, well, you better be, because you're being released. You're going to phase 3. You're going to be on your own. I'm like, I need more time. She said, no, you don't. You don't need more time. But and she actually told me, I remember even in call taking training, and this is something that I know everyone in my class went through who didn't have dispatch experience. We were like, we could not imagine ourselves taking calls on our own. We were sitting there tethered up to a training officer thinking, okay, we're slowly getting comfortable, but I feel more comfortable with them there. And I remember the training officer saying, at some point, you're going to wish I'm not here, because you're going to feel like you can do it on your own. And sure enough, we all got to a point where we're like, you can go. Yeah. I got this.
Record.
Yeah, it's good. Yes. Let's do this.
Oh man. I didn't want to jump in a second ago, but you have me kind of like giddy a little bit. I'll just say you got me a little giddy, and it's only because you're taking me back to when I first started as well. Like I felt the same way. And I honestly feel like it's better to have someone who is unsure like that. Someone who's not really sure, like, I'm not sure if I have it. I'm not sure if I got it. I don't know that I can do this.
Yes.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually a good thing versus someone who is so confident, is like, yeah, I got this.
Oh my gosh.
And
You're
goes
right.
in. And those are the people that sometimes freeze because they were too overconfident. And I was just like you, where I remember telling one of my trainers, like, man, I don't think I got this. I don't know that I can do this, because I had 3.5 years prior experience already before going to the agency that I ended up finishing off my career in. But it was completely different. I went from a one dispatcher / call taker doing all disciplines of public safety for 8 hours a day by myself to 3 to 4 doing all disciplines, and the call volume being way up there.
Wow.
So it was different. So I was the same as you, but she said to me as well, no, you're fine. You got this. You're just, you're getting in your head. It's okay to feel like this. So we'd rather you feel like this than be overconfident, and then, something happen.
Exactly. That's so true. I agree with you. I've seen the stories where I've seen people, who come in and they kind of, because they're so overconfident, they're not listening, when the CTO is saying, hey, when you get to this call or whatever, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to, reflect back on your training and everything. You don't have to have it all together. And then they get in that, that call, and then they're frozen because they put so much like pressure on themselves. Like, I got it. You don't have to. You don't have to have it. And like you said, even for someone like you who had prior experience, if you're moving to a different agency, there's going to be new challenges, new responsibilities. Even the demographic of people you might have served at one agency might be different at your new agency. So you've got to learn and kind of take a step back and like, okay, what do I need to learn? Put aside what I already have, all that prior knowledge. What do I need to learn at this new agency? So yes.
Yeah, I think what was a little harder for me as well, in both agencies, but more in this last one, because of the call volume going up. There's one section, and it was an area that I grew up in where it was a lot of Spanish speaking. So I'm learning everything, this whole new environment where I'm at in this area, a county that I grew up in, but also higher call volume, more people working, have to figure out the entire team dynamic and listening to everything in the room at one time. And then also trying to translate.
Oh yes,
I remember freaking out.
Hat you were wearing at one time there.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. Holy crap. Uh, so you get through your training and all, and I
Yeah.
mean, do you remember any of your early calls, even like your first call or anything like that?
Oh my god. So I was trying because there's so many calls, and I didn't wanna
Yeah,
just give the same
mhm,
call that I wrote about in my essay that I submitted to the scholarship.
yeah,
That was because that was one of my earliest calls. But I think about another call that I took, and obviously suicide calls, or
mhm,
they're some of the most triggering calls you ever get. And I remember early call I had with a mother who, called us, and she said, I had a fight with my 17-year-old son, and he locked himself in the bedroom. I'm knocking on the door, and it's been an hour. Like, usually he comes out and he's not answering me. So can you send an officer out here? Basically, send an officer out here because I just want to make sure he's okay.
mhm,
And this was probably year two of but year two for me was because that first year was a lot of classroom training and call taking training. So year two was my first year of actually being released. And
mhm,
so I've got this mother, and what was so crazy is because she's so calm, like answering all of my questions. And I got all the information I needed out of her, address, name, everything, but was listening to her voice like slowly break as she realized, like, okay, something is wrong. So I'm asking her, okay, so how long ago has it been since you heard from your son? Have you heard anything? Do you hear anything in this room? And she's just like, no, I don't. I said, have you knocked on the door? Are you banging the door? And I hear her. She's banging now. And she's like, he's not saying anything. So at this point, of course, I start, you know, EMS and fire, because I'm gonna start them along with police because I'm thinking worse. And I asked her what was the fight about and everything, and she's telling me, and she said, he said something along the lines of, "That's it, I'm gonna make you regret, you fighting with me, or you're not giving me,
mhm,
giving in." It was something, yeah, I think he wanted to go to a party or something, and she said, "We're always fighting about this," and he said, "I'm gonna do something to make you regret you telling me no." And so we already got all the information. I was so thankful for that, because I'm listening to this mother just break down now. She's banging on the door. She's like, "I think I think something's wrong with my son. I think he's dead. I think he's dead. I think he's dead. Are you got help coming? Do you have help coming?" And I'm like, "I've got him coming, man. I've got him coming." She's like, "Oh, I can't get the door open." So, help arrives and everything. And of course, he's found hanging in his room. I heard she dropped the phone. So the whole time, for the next 8 or so minutes, I'm still listening to everything going on in the background. I'm listening to her screaming, and I'm listening to her talking about to herself, "I should have just said yes. I should have this." But what about that call was really triggering to me, was because I was at a point where I had been released. So far, the calls had been pretty routine, and I'm thinking, I got this. Okay, I've been on my own. I can do this. Then I get a call like that,
mhm,
and I'm like, if I'm gonna get a call like this every month, then I can't. I can't do this job. I can't. And I learned something that a lot of us dispatchers know, former dispatchers know, and it's the trick of leaving it at the door. You can't change what happened. You can't fix it. There's nothing you can do. Thinking over and over about a call, it's not good. It's not healthy. Okay, all you can do is get up, walk away if you can do that. Ask for a break on your radio. Get up, separate yourself, and go back to it. But what's important about that, what I also learned when talking, to older dispatchers and veteran dispatchers, was it's not helpful to just say, "Well, I'm just going to bury it in my mind." That doesn't do anything. That's not that's not healthy. Just bury it away, because look, that was a real call. That was a real person. That was a life that was lost. So just saying, "I'm just going to forget about it," you don't do that. And you don't become cynical. You don't want to let that build up and you become jaded and you just think that this is all my job is. I'm just getting helpless calls and I'm not doing anything to help people. No. You're in that moment, you think about what happened, fine. You let it go. But you get yourself prepared, emotionally prepared to take the next call and to do it again. And guess what? As it turns out, sometimes you get calls like that where they're already gone. He was already gone. I don't know. He could have hung himself 30 minutes before she called or whatever. It could have been an hour before she called. I couldn't do anything. But I've had calls where parents have found their kids hanging and I could do something about it. And when responders arrived, we were able, in time, they were able to cut that child down. So it's not about, just burying it away. It was a call. And the fact that I'm even recalling it now and talking about it, it's still in my mind. But it was an early call and I've had more calls. But you part of this job is taking that and building from it, learning from those type of calls. Really. So that's a call that, it represents to me like what I do at 911 and why I still do it. Because as hard as it is to hear those calls, I still do the job. I take the calls knowing that next call could be a call like that again. But I have a community to help. So these are my citizens. So this is what I'm here for.
It is very, very wise of you to be able to say that and to learn all of it as well, especially, at the time that, that you did, I was one of those that would bury those calls. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, and we really didn't talk about it at work. So I would bury those calls, man, and I learned the hard way. It took me a little while to figure that out, that hey, you're not weak for reaching out for help, or talking to somebody else about it. That's why I started doing a lot of what I do now, because I figured that if it helped me, it would help others as well by sharing stories. That it would be therapeutic in a way. And just everything that you have said, it really, I can relate to it because I was there. I was also there at that point. And and learning from all of this, and what you were saying as well about you came to the point where you realized, really you did everything that you could.
Yes.
You did everything that you could. But at the moment, and I can say this, and I mean, a lot of people can say it as well who have done this job, because they've probably done the same thing or something similar. I had a suicide call as well, where it was something that I ended up putting on myself. This is the last 2 weeks that I'm in dispatch, and and it seemed like the dispatch gods were giving me hell 2 weeks, because I was taking almost every single call that I don't know, every crap call that was coming in really was one that I was taking, and I thought, man, I'm going out with a bang here.
I know.
They're really pushing me out. And this one, it started out as a disorderly, but at the very end, the caller is telling me, I think he's suicidal as well. I'm like, oh, okay, well that completely changes everything.
Turn. Yes.
Yeah. I'm trying to call the person to hopefully get a hold of him, because he had taken off and he had already driven his car into a tree. So I started trying to figure out exactly what I could have done different, because I was kind of putting the blame on myself there for a little bit. It was the car. Yeah, the car. I was looking at the map. I was looking at my map and trying to map out how far from the house where it originated to where he had gone into a tree. I spent like 30 or so minutes doing this, and I remember,
it had nothing to do with you. But in the moment, you're replaying. You're like, maybe I didn't give this instruction quick enough. Maybe I didn't get this information quick enough. Maybe I should have asked this before I asked that. Yes.
That was exactly what I was doing. If I would have changed my line of questioning, would I have been able to get a hold of that person faster?
You do all of
and
that, yes.
finally ended up coming to the conclusion that no, I did everything that I could have done. There was nothing I could have done. And I was able to get past it. I talk about it because I want
Mm,
people to learn from it as well. That,
you're right.
when you get calls like that, you have done everything that you can do.
That's
Um,
right.
so I
That
can
is
fully
absolutely right.
relate to you there. It's
PTSD is so real for 911
Mhm.
dispatchers. This has already been established, studies, everything shows it. It's real for us.
Right. Yeah, and obviously, like we're talking about it, it sticks with us. We can see
Yes.
things, we can hear things, at way after it has happened. I don't see a lot of the car model or make that was involved in this specific call, but
Okay.
before, whenever I would see it, ooh, and if it was the same color, I'm like, oh man,
Oh my
there it is. There's that, that car and stuff, and I would think about it, and then I would, yep, I did everything I could.
That's
Wish I
right.
could have done more, but what can you
I
do?
mean, that's exactly.
You can
Exactly.
move on. Um, Now we have all this, this information and everything, all this experience that you've
Yes.
had in this industry, which just listening to you talk, one, you've got the passion, you're loving it, and you've learned so much,
I
and
do.
you have
That's it.
this
Still learning. I am still
and still
learning
learning. Yeah, yeah,
every
you
day.
learn every day. Every day, it's something new.
Exactly.
You're always learning,
Yes.
but you bring
Yes.
that experience and stuff, and I love it. Um, so you recently you wrote an article for the 911 Wonder Woman. And as I was talking in the beginning, 2020 has just sent so many different things going on. And one of
Oh
the
yeah.
big things a few months ago, there was a lot of civil unrest. There was a lot of different things that were going on. And there were
Yes.
a few people who actually had reached out saying, being a person of color in dispatch has been really, really hard. And
Oh yeah.
in some of the live episodes that I had been doing, the open mic ones that usually were sharing funny stories and stuff
Yes.
during the
Yes.
peak of all this that was going on, I
Mm.
completely cut the funny part out of it, and
That's it.
I just made it a spot for people to talk. And I went on and I said, let's just talk. Let's just talk about what's going on and
Yes.
how people are
Not,
feeling. Because right now, at this moment, there is nothing funny that's going on in 911.
oh my
So
God. No.
let's not hide from this, and let's talk about this.
You're right.
And I had
Okay.
mentioned it on there as well. Look towards your coworkers, your brothers and sisters that are of color, and see, like, ask them if they're feeling okay, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of them out there right now that are not doing
Oh, it's
okay.
so true. You know
And
it.
yeah, and I said, I'm a Mexican dude, man, and if I were the one who was really going through all of this at the center of this, I
Mm.
would want people to ask me if I'm okay, like, because
Yes.
then we can
Yeah.
relate together and you can learn from me. But this isn't my situation. I'm just giving an example. And
No.
so
Okay.
I was telling people, ask, see what's going on. Um, because I had someone that reached out and said, for the first time, I felt like I wasn't part of the group. And
Oh.
this was like a week before, when we were still kind of sharing, stories and stuff. And it was
Okay.
because of a lot of what was going on. And then when you wrote this, I was blown away by it, because it's very powerful. So
I appreciate that.
I want to give you a chance here before, because we're kind of going into the wrap up of this episode as well. But we've got a part two. We definitely have a part two to this.
You better
Um,
believe it. Yes.
oh yeah, we have a lot that we can talk about.
We've got
But
a lot. Like I feel like we just got started, Ricardo.
yes, yeah,
We
yeah,
did. I'm
definitely.
like, wait a minute. It's I cannot believe it. We're wrapping up, but I know it's a lot.
This,
It's a lot.
this will
But it's been
be
fun. so far.
This will be a good way, though, I think, to wrap this up as well, because this is such a powerful piece. I want to
Yes.
make sure that this goes out there. And so I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor. And this is called Bigger Than the Bias, Being a Person of Color in 911.
Okay. I can only imagine with some degree of horror what the history books will have to say on the year that came after 2019. 2020, also known as the year of fashionable and unfashionable face coverings, shortened MLB schedules, socially distanced weddings, and grandparents in quarantine discovering TikTok for the first time. We're only 8 months in, and it's already been a whirlwind roller coaster of a ride. But more than just the challenges we face nationally over how to deal with COVID-19 and rearranging our lives and everyday routines around this pandemic, 2020 has also had its share of racial tension and divisiveness. We've heard Breonna Taylor and George Floyd become household names almost overnight, and discussions like whether to defund the police or what is acceptable protester behavior become the new trendy conversations to have over dinner. With so much growing uncertainty these days, the struggle for those in public safety to stay sane and vigilant is more real than ever, because in spite of everything, one thing has remained consistent: the need for emergency services and law enforcement. Truly, this has been the year of the essential worker. It has. The everyday unsung American hero who wears no cape and possesses no mutant superpowers. They sit in traffic, run on gas station coffee, and work 40 plus hours a week. Throughout the different departments in many sectors of local governments, while some employees have been furloughed or allowed to work from home, other employees are still expected to show up, physically clock in, and do their jobs with or without receiving hazard pay. The latter has especially been true for those of us who work behind the thin gold line, as well as our brothers and sisters who wear other uniform colors and public safety. And due to our current social and political climate, the amount of 911 calls we process daily has gone up incredibly. There are many reports of domestic disturbances, business disputes, and suspicious or unwanted persons. Those are calls that translate to more calls of service for our peace officers to respond to. So what we have is a brutally underworked, undermanned, and an underappreciated police force struggling to serve the growing demands of an increasingly frustrated, disillusioned, and a greatly traumatized generation of people. It is challenging enough, but when you add to the mix being a person of color who works in public safety, well, this adds a new level of conflict to personally deal with. I suspect there are many others like me in 911 and other departments of public safety feeling the impact of this collision of identities. On the one hand, we cannot deny the blatant racial disparities that exist in the criminal justice system. Nor can we just turn a blind eye to the unfortunate reality of police brutality incidents that sometimes turn fatal. Yet, we do wholeheartedly back the blue, and we do believe that defunding our police departments are not the answer. We do not think that doing away with governmentally enforced law enforcement, law and order, is a solution. It's not. Personally, as an African American, my heart breaks a little every time I have to read a news article on another young Black life that's stolen away by hate or by violence. My heart also breaks every time I read another headline that's calling for or condoning the persecution of people in uniform. Now, ironically, us persons of color and public safety, we already know what it feels like to belong to a group that is a victim of unintentional stereotyping or intentional bias. We know what it's like to be mislabeled or judged as a whole based on the actions of a few because of one factor, our skin color. So seeing on the other side, police forces be judged, whole police forces be judged as racist because of the racial indifference of a few police officers, it hits all too close to home. As a 911 dispatcher, I feel the enormous weight of responsibility for the safety of my officers, my deputies, and my firefighters during this time of bitter race relations, and even with COVID-19 remaining an ever-present threat as well. So the purpose of this article is to offer an encouraging word to those in my same position, to say that it is altogether possible to do both, to want justice and equality in all aspects of our society, and also to stand tall in solidarity with those who are on the forefront of public safety. So here are 4 important principles I lay out for persons of color in dispatch to remember during these divisive times. So number 1, and this is for all persons of color in public safety, but it's for our brothers and sisters, not black, not brown, of other colors as well, to know. Keep these in mind during these times. Number 1, no one deserves to be found guilty of a crime they didn't commit. Persecuting an entire group of people for a single individual or for a few individuals is not morally right or fair. Just as stereotyping an entire demographic because of the actions of a select few is inexcusably wrong. What an officer with another agency in another state might have done does not automatically reflect on our agency, our officers, and our county. We can call a wrong wrong without moving into prejudice ourselves. The officers and the deputies we work with are not somehow guilty by long-distance association just because they too wear a badge and a gun. There isn't some inherent bias that comes with wearing blue. Each cop or sheriff deputy should be judged on his or her own merit. Number 2, there is no room for shame in our public safety community. We belong to one of the most amazing, most resilient, and most vital organizations ever. We represent the brave and the strong. We bring civility, provide order, give comfort, offer words of wisdom, and deliver life-saving instructions, and perform emergency life-saving measures. Still, all that we do is hard to describe. It involves a lot of sweat, tears, patience, customer service, with an extra generous of that. I walk into work with my head held high each single shift. I know that my work is for a good cause and that I serve my citizens to my fullest capacity. I am not failing any specific minority group because I proudly back public safety. Even as an African American 911 dispatcher, which I am, I don't have to be ashamed, since I know that the services I provide within my county benefits all people, regardless of race, background, and economic status. Number 3, the change always starts from within, with educating oneself, changing one's attitude, and resolving to be the difference. When it comes to the discussion on racial tolerance and cultural acceptance, the conversation should never start with asking what the other person could do better, but what I, individually, can do better. With all the progress that has been made in the push for civil rights and fairer treatment in the criminal justice system, there still remains work to do. So we must each determine in ourselves to adopt a mindset that places love and compassion ahead of bias and strife. Unity has to be our common goal, as well as a desire to reform whatever beliefs we have that might unintentionally divide us from other cultural groups of society. But if we only ever point the finger at others or we blame them, we'll never learn, nor will we see what prejudice might exist in ourselves. Many times, a disagreement goes both ways. That means that there isn't just one person to blame here. Isn't just one person at fault. Each side sometimes shoulders a share of the responsibility for the problem at hand. And number 4, you don't have to take sides in this debate. It's big. You can support your brothers and sisters in blue and support social justice also. The idea that you cannot both believe in justice being served for those who have been wronged or mistreated by law enforcement and believe in the good of law enforcement as a whole is a sad myth. You can, in fact, do both. The two are not mutually exclusive. It isn't about taking up a singular side. Either way, it's about taking up a stand for good. So I can say that I feel George Floyd's life mattered. And I also feel that the lives of my police officers matter too. Wanting justice for Breonna Taylor, which I still do. And I'll add this, Miss Breonna Taylor, her birthday, it's my little sister's birthday. So the same year that she would have turned another year older, my little sister turned another year older. So as I watched my sister blow out those candles. Yeah, she was on my mind. So the same way we can want justice for Breonna Taylor, it doesn't make you any less of a police supporter. Because guess what? My stance is that the majority of police officers are morally just individuals who just want justice for all. So in my time as a 911 dispatcher, I have encountered far more good in public safety than bad. That's why I'm proud. And I'm especially proud of the measures that my own department and Cobb County Public Safety have taken in respectfully handling protests and rallies in our communities. So this is the lesson I leave you with. The lesson to remember is that as members of public safety, we have an important job to do. And while some might question our motives and our intentions, we should never feel guilty for doing our job. There will be incidents where citizens feel failed by the system, and we can do our part to fix this. There are minority groups still grappling with issues of distress and frustration over being stereotyped for so long. But let us never forget that what we do in 911 is vitally central to all of public safety and the communities we serve for. And the communities that we serve are far and wide much better protected with the active presence of law enforcement than without it. That concludes that.
That is such a powerful article and so much behind it. And we might have to do an episode just on this. where we have you kind of talk a little more in depth about it. But this was a perfect closing to this episode. And just thank you so much for the experience, the wisdom, the outlook, and forward thinking, just everything that comes with a piece like this and a person like you who have just done so much with your experience and have learned and have put so much out there for others to learn from as well. And this is just one more reason for those who are watching and listening right now that you were also chosen as the scholarship winner for 2020. I mean, the essay that you wrote was also as powerful, and the committee, I mean, it was hands down. And thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it, and I look forward to having you on again because you are. For those watching, you're about to get ready to go to work. So
yes. Look at the time. I was like, yes. So I have to go to work, but this is awesome. Like I told you before we started this, it's full circle because I've this whole second half of the year, I've been doing a lot of writing, a lot of guest blogs. So between the piece on 911 Wonder Woman site, thank you to Miss Sarah Weston, and guest columns I've written and everything. But it's so crazy because this year, the first piece, it really started with what I Am 911 means to me and what I submitted to you for that scholarship. So it's so crazy that was back in February or in March that I submitted it. So now, like, after all of this and everything, to this end, to be on your podcast, I'm like, yeah, it's a nice crowning jewel for the year.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, just thank you for everything, and keep doing what you're doing, and you're just spreading such an amazing message. And like I said, in wisdom and everything. So keep doing what you're doing.
I appreciate you using the platform that you have for this. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and it's crazy because you have two careers, 911, your first career, but now you've made this career of supporting us like we do, and uplifting and providing this platform for people to tell their stories, put their messages out there. So, Ricardo, I thank you too. So
thank you. I appreciate
keep it
that.
up, man.
I'll be right back here with you before you split. For those who are watching, if you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, it's wttpodcast@gmail.com. I have to have her back to do another episode. We're going to have to do another episode. It's going to be awesome. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital as well as Rapid Deploy. And if you're looking for any bonus content or anything like that, you can check us out. And that's on patreon.com/WTT podcast. Thank you all for everything. I appreciate it more than you know. And you can see this on Facebook as well as YouTube. And then for the flagship show, which is this one as well, Within the Trenches, you can listen to the audio version on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Thank you all so much for everything. I appreciate it, and have a good one.